have so much because when you look at comfort and you look at success and progress and the feelings of accomplishment and of getting past certain hurdles in terms of like how you feel about life, a lot of those are connected to discomfort. Like discomfort is your friend. It really is. Like discomfort and not being happy and content with certain situations in life or certain feelings in life, they're massive motivators, and they're amazing at facilitating change. And yet our instinct is to avoid those and just sit on the couch and watch some reality show about dudes who make moonshine with our jaw open like, ooh. It's bizarre.
It's only good for me. You're not supposed to live anywhere where they let you drink 24 hours a day. That's f***ed up. And they give you free booze when you're gambling. No, f*** you. That's crazy. How is that the law? And it's all Red Bull plus something, so you got a chemical battle going on in your consciousness. Half of you sped up, the other half is f***ed up, so it's just seesaw battle retardation. When you're on Red Bull and whatever, and it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, you don't even know who the f*** you are. You got one cylinder that's just moving your feet in certain directions and making up decisions on what you're gonna eat. We went to the Spearmint Rhino Strip Club at 9:30 a.m. on a Thursday. Yeah. And it was packed. That's what was really depressing. That's one of those dumb Red Bull and vodka moments where you're too stupid to be making your own decisions. We were eating breakfast. We were down to 2-word sentences. We were just like, waffles, You know how you get there? You know how you get there? You get to those, and nobody says anything for a minute, and somebody goes, word. And all I'm thinking of is sleep, man. All I'm thinking is, oh, I can't wait to hit that pillow. It's gonna be so nice to go to sleep. And I hear, hey man, you guys wanna go to the Rhino? And I'm like, that's my voice.
Say that I feel like, you know what, society says everything's great. I'm unhappy.
Exercise.
Financially, okay,
Exercise.
Why is exercise the one?
Because you get your blood pumping.
Right.
You release natural endorphins and you legitimately feel better. And I also think of this all the time. I think of your body as almost like the energy in your body is like a battery, and it requires a certain amount of use. And when you don't use it, it overflows. And then you get weird behavior and overreacting to things, and you almost like get antsy. You got to get up and move. If I look back on anything I've ever done, mistakes I've ever made, paths that something that I put out that I didn't quite think, man, maybe I just waited 3 months before I released that, or maybe I should have, re-edited that blog post a couple more times before I put it online, or those things drive me crazy. Mm-hmm. Things that I've done have driven me crazy, but yelling at someone I didn't have to yell at them for, whatever. But the most important thing is always for all people to recognize that you're not who you were a year ago. You're not who you were 5 years ago. You're not who you were last week. You're who you are now, and this is the only shit you have control over. So you got to regulate how much you dwell on regrets of the past. You really got to be careful, because it's good to have a little. Because my regrets, whether it's things of professional nature or the very few regrets friendship-wise, which is one thing that makes me very happy. But there's life is strange. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of factors happening in life. But for sure, who I am now wouldn't have ever happened if I didn't fuck up. If I didn't make those mistakes, I wouldn't have understand the importance of friendship and kindness. And if I hadn't been cruel at some point in my life, or someone hadn't been cruel to me, I wouldn't understand the beauty of love. I wouldn't understand the full range of it, because I hadn't felt the sting. If nobody ever punches you in the face, you don't really appreciate safety. Because a lot of people don't even understand what safety is. You pretend, oh, we're safe, but you are so not safe at any moment. And when someone's punched you in the face a bunch of times, and you've been in a street fight with some guy you barely knew, you got in an argument with him, there's something about regular safety that's sweeter. Yeah. It's more delicious. Yeah. It's more delicious. It's way better to drive your car straight after you almost lost control on a turn. You're like, wah! And then you get back straight, you're like, whoa. For sure. I'm not saying that you should go sideways around corners, but what I am saying is that there's a yin and a yang to this world, man. And you got to fuel yourself with the fuck-ups. And most people get stuck in these patterns because they define themselves as a fuck-up, or they define themselves as a person who doesn't follow through on their ideas, or a person who doesn't pursue their real interests and loves. You define yourself by that. Well, I guess I start things and I quit. No, you don't. No, you have started things and you quit. And it gives you a horrible sense of regret that's made you define yourself by that. You don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. There's a bunch of people that will say, yeah, well, I have a family, so, it's a great idea for you to just go out there and go crazy. I have people to support. You need to listen. Stop saying that. Stop saying any of those things. Every single person who has ever done anything worthwhile or exceptional or difficult or extraordinary, anyone, whether it's great artists or authors or mathematicians or whatever it is, everyone encounters difficulties. There is no easy road. It does not exist. It is impossible. Everyone has issues. If you have time to pursue a hobby, if you have time to do anything in your life, you can better yourself. And here's one way you never better yourself. When you come up with excuses for why other people are successful and you're not. That is dangerous. When you give yourself an escape. Yeah, well, that's easy for you to say. You do this, you do. Trust me. Everybody has a hard road. I wanted to jump out a window several times during my young life. I wanted to jump in front of a train and just end it because it's too much pressure. Not really. But you know what I'm saying. Theoretically. We all go through hard times. We all go through depression. We all go through doubt and moments in your life where it's really difficult and you're trying to figure out what the your path is going to be. It's hard as shit. But Stefan and I were talking about this before the podcast starts, that is what makes you a person. And those difficult moments are what build your character. Show me a great man who's the son of a great man. That's what we're saying. These kids that are born billionaires, you're never going to be a self-made person. You have a backup trust for your backup trust for your trust, and you're man, out of that.
I get to where I have to tell people things that are true that are even embarrassing about me now, because it's so weird. You can feel the energy. You guys want to talk about that? Because you brought this up. Elaborate on how strength, because few know this. Few get to talk hours a day in front of people and then learn that it becomes a real relationship.
Well, yeah, it definitely does. And you know what else is? You goddamn, you learn so much from those people, man. Even people who are critical, like they send you a link to correct you, like this is the real information, and you have the inaccurate information. Like, if you don't have an ego about all that, if you could deal with the fact that you might be wrong, or you might have jumped to a conclusion, there might be many possible scenarios.
It's a giant thing.
You learn so much from people on Twitter, man. A lot of people will complain about negative things on Twitter. I don't get that much negative on Twitter, but I occasionally get yo, I'm gonna punch you in your face if I see you, faggot.
It's little kids.
But
well,
even the
maybe
negative,
it might not even be
grab
that.
Something from some of the negative stuff. Even if there's a ton of negative, usually there's a 1% truth to it.
Yeah,
that 1%
yeah.
will kind of stick in that back of your head where you're all right, he took it to the next level, but I do understand that 1% of what he's talking about.
Yeah, you can get a hater who's 90% hater, but 10% has a point. It does help you. I really believe it. It's a terrible feeling, that feeling when someone's hating on you, but I find it very beneficial. Yeah. Because for two reasons. One, because it's like snake venom. Because if you get bit by a rattlesnake and you've ever been bit by a rattlesnake before, it will you up. Someone who has never been famous and then all of a sudden decides to do a reality show, and then they get all these insults hurled at them from every direction online. That has got to be horrific. That's just going to be torturous. But when you take a little bit of hate venom and a little bit of hate venom, then you develop an immunity to it. You kind of understand what it is. It
becomes enjoyable.
Well, then it becomes a checking mechanism, and I look at it almost as if it's an algorithm. And I look at it this negative coming in, how much does it affect me, and how much does it affect the positivity that I put out? If I dwell on it, well, then it'll surely me out. But if I just look at it, and if I truly look at myself to say, okay, do they have a point? And if they do have a point, if I am being a like I gotta, that's very important to be honest about that and to look at that. Just dealing with stressful. Be the hero of your own movie. If your life was a movie and it started now, forget about whatever financial disasters you've had, personal failures, relationship failures. What would the hero of your life's movie do right now? Do that. Do those things. We define ourselves far too often by our past failures. We look at our past and we say, well, that's me. That's not you. You are this person right now. You're the person who's learned from those failures, and you can choose to be the hero of your own movie right now. Write down your goals. Write down things you want to improve. Write down things you won't tolerate from yourself. Write down things that you've done in the past that you never want to see yourself do again. And go forth from here as the hero of your own movie. Build momentum. Build confidence and momentum with each good decision that you make from here on out. You can do it. Anyone can do it. We live in unique times. We live in one of the rarest times in human history where you can choose almost all the input that comes your way. Whether it's the movies that you watch, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to, you can choose to be inspired. Do that. Do that and be the hero of your own movie. One thing that discipline definitely does help you with is it helps you get things done. And when you get things done, when you actually do things, you have more success. If you have more success, and sometimes a big part of success is just not being lazy and just doing it.
Yeah.
That's like 90% of it is just showing up. Get there and start working. Like, you're not going to feel perfect every day. If I only worked out when I felt good, I'd be a fat because there's a lot of days I don't want to do it. It's pretty much the same with everybody that actually gets good at something. There's got to be those days you push through, and they're probably going to be more numerous than the days you don't. And so the benefit of discipline in my eyes has always been that through discipline I get things done. Yeah. I always say that I'm like the most lazy, disciplined person I know because I don't want to do it.
Yeah,
but I always do. It's very rare that someone is successful that doesn't have a crazy schedule.
Yes.
And if they are, they're not going to appreciate it. Mm-hmm. They're going to, but it's all like, what is where you're at? Like, is where you're at where you want to be? Like, are you enjoying it? Mm-hmm. Because what I'm happy about the most is that I enjoy what I do. So when I'm doing, like, if I was working as a CEO of some corporation or something like that, and I was putting all these crazy hours, like the same kind of hours I put in now, the same kind of effort, I'd probably be a miserable, drunk, pill-popping psychopath who's just looking to escape and go bang hookers or something. I'd be looking for some sort of a release. Something. I'm fascinated by martial arts. I'm fascinated by comedy. I'm fascinated by many, many different things. I don't understand when people say they're bored. Because if I had the time to live 100 lives, I'd be speaking different languages. I'd be living in different countries. I would try a number of different careers because I think there's a lot of unbelievably fascinating, puzzling, complex things that you could study in this world. That's just me and my personality. But that's a personality also that I've cultivated over years of challenges.
Were you like that as a kid too?
Well, I was involved in martial arts very early. Yeah. And I think that is one of the things that motivated me to explore difficult tasks, because through difficult tasks you learn an incredible amount about yourself, and you through the fire of competition you get to understand motivation, you get to understand the resistance that you have inside your mind to doing hard work, you get to understand the rewards of discipline. Like, you don't truly appreciate relaxation unless you've worked hard, and that is the yin and the yang of life. And I've said this to the point of people getting sick of it, but one of the worst decisions a man can make, I can only speak for men, obviously, is to be comfortable. I don't think you should try to be comfortable. I think what you should try to do is try to earn comfort. And if you can get a day off where you've worked hard and you've accomplished goals, that day off will be so sweet. When I work hard and I sit in front of the TV, I enjoy the shit out of it. I put my feet up, I have a nice drink, I enjoy
one
my
of those
free
chairs
time.
that nids your back or something like
I
that?
do have one of those.
Do you really?
Those are great.
They're great, right? Yeah.
I don't use it that much though. Honestly, I'm more of a workaholic than I should be. Probably, if the balance was, I probably should relax more than I do, but I never feel like I earned it. But that's part of the reason why when I do feel like I earned it, I can enjoy it. It's because I am more connected to the idea that I need to accomplish things, and it's not like for anybody else's benefit other than my own, or anybody else's approval other than my own. When I have a task, whether it's today I'm going to write 1,000 words, or 2,000 or whatever the number is. If I don't do that, I write things down. Like I'll write down a list of things that get accomplished that day. And if I don't accomplish that, I'll get sick. Like it'll drive me crazy. If I can't fill out that list, that drives me nuts, but that's what led me to be a championship level martial artist. That's what led me to achieve it's like that. It's the reinforcement of those goals, like understanding that you can achieve those goals. It's going to be difficult. You're going to push through the difficulty, and then you're going to understand what difficulty truly is, and how much of it is just mental, how much of it is just in your mind. This adversity to difficult task or to struggle. And a lot of people have that. They're scared. They're scared of complications. They're scared of failure. Failure is a big one that people are afraid of. But failure is one of the most important things you could ever have as far as like the motivation to do things differently. One of the reasons why I think that I'm good at friendships and relationships is because I've failed at them in the past. One of the things that I'm good at comedy is because I've bombed on stage. One of the reasons why I'm good at work is because I've been a worker in the past, and I know the feeling of failure, the feeling of shame, of being like a weak, non-motivated, lazy person. It's a weak feeling. It's you don't respect yourself. And I have this phrase that I use all the time to people to try to motivate people. I say that be the hero in your own movie. Pretend that if your life was a movie and your life started now, what would the hero do? What would the person that you respect do? What would the person that you admire, the person that inspires you, what would they do? Well, do that and if you do that, you slowly build momentum. You today I did what I wanted to do. Today I started a class in yoga. I did this. I did all these things that I was saying I wasn't going to do, and now I feel momentum. And momentum is a very important point in people's lives. That's why some folks don't like to take days off, because they feel like they're losing momentum, and they sort of have to restart the wheel up again after a vacation. Write it down.
Yeah.
Write down everything you want to do. I don't mean crazy shit, like I'm going to be the Prince of Brunei. I'm going to have a base in the moon. Shut up. This is what I want you to do. Write down what you would like to fix about your life. And then just, if you're 30 pounds overweight, you want to lose 30 pounds? Do it the right way. Go start eating vegetables, monitor your calories, write down what you eat, exercise every day, force yourself to do it. Say you're the general. The brain is the general, the troops are the body. The troops don't want to listen, but you go, you listen, and you get up and you do it, and then you get to write it down. And if you don't write it down, you don't eat, you don't shower. Write that down so you do it. It's like brushing your teeth. It's not something, I don't want to brush my teeth today. What do you want, your teeth to rot out of your head, you dunce? Just do it. Just do it. Make yourself do it. And if you do that, if you write shit down and do that, you can change who the you are.
From like my
Exercise. As a kid, I think here's an important thing too. I think failure teaches you things that you don't learn from success. I think failure gives you an opportunity for self-examination, and also gives you a feeling that is very uncomfortable. And that very uncomfortable feeling helps you grow. And don't look at these failures as like proof that you suck. Look at them as opportunities for growth. Look at them as opportunities to be motivated to do better. I enjoy a lot of things, and what I've found that the best way to live my life for me, I'm not saying, other people, some people really love their life to sit around and f*** off. When I sit around and f*** off, I don't like me. I like to get things done. But the things that I do, they're recreational. They're all fun. Like Disneyland was fun as with my kids. The Eddie Bravo Invitational was fun as the UFC was fun as my show, sold out show at the Ka Theater where they do the Cirque du Soleil at MGM with Joey Diaz and Jim Norton Friday night. Fun as
is fun as too.
Those are jobs, right? But those are fun things.
Yeah.
And, you know, training is fun. Stand-up comedy couldn't be any funner. You know, the only real work is like, you got to discipline myself to sometimes work out when I don't want to, write when I don't want to. This is how I feel. It's harder for me to not do what I'm supposed to do than it is for me to do what I'm supposed to do. Because if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, then I deal with regret and doubt. I've done it before. I've done it a lot of my life. I've felt those feelings. I don't like it. So what I do is I just don't do that. I just say, well, what is the difference? If I don't do it, then I'm going to have to feel like I didn't do it and feel like a loser. So get after it, bitch. When you're alone with your thoughts, you get an idea of what your thoughts actually are. If you live your life just acting constantly on the momentum of other people's expectations, of you wanting to be liked by these other people, you can run into a trap, and you set up a life that you didn't really want. You're trapped in this situation where you have a mortgage, you've got credit card bills, you got student loans you have to pay, you have a bunch of shit going on that you have to continue to feed. And all that, and especially if you have a family and you have to feed them, oh my goodness. Then you're fully locked in. You can't take any chances whatsoever. And oftentimes people make the mistake of getting stuck. And it is just a tactical mistake, just like it would be a mistake if you got stuck on a video game. Just like it would be a mistake if you followed a map incorrectly and you got stuck in the woods. Your life is certainly some sort of a journey. It's certainly some sort of a journey. And we have to all be aware that when we're making journeys, we're not going to always make the right steps. And sometimes you have to back up and try again. And if you're in a position where you can't back up and try again, you've trapped yourself. And the system will set out honeypots for people to get trapped in. The system will set out the ideas of retirement, the ideas of the golden years, providing you benefits, providing you a healthy work environment. Why? Well, because they want people to work for them. They don't want people to realize their own dreams and escape. And that's a fucking pain in the ass. So you got to hire more people and train them. And they want to set it up so that you stick around. You stick around in some sort of an unsatisfying world. It's up to you to see that video game problem, to see that issue as it comes up on the map. And no, I think this is a right turn. To see all the problems that could potentially lay in front of you and calculate your future. And then also look around at all the people that didn't do it and look at the misery that they're in and learn that you don't want to be like them. And then look at the people that have kind of taken chances and navigated their way. What did they do differently than you? What objectivity do they have that maybe you lack? What insight into their own mistakes are they willing to delve into that you're not, that you step back and you go, you know, I just don't want to look at myself that closely. But the person who's able to look at themselves the closest is going to get the more rational results. People are lazy, and the reason why we're lazy is because it's very difficult for us to waste resources on something that we don't currently do. And even though we know something to be true, that if you do this physical
long-term
thing,
benefits,
we know that. But
right.
Short term, it's like, I don't want to do it right now,
right?
Because your body like craves relaxation because it used to be a very rare thing to achieve. Wondering what. People who are in jiu-jitsu and train on a regular basis, they're healthier people. Their egos are healthier, especially men. They're easier to talk to. They're easier to hang out with because they're facing reality on a regular basis. It's something my Taekwondo teacher told me when I was a little kid that I never forgot was that martial arts are a vehicle for developing your human potential. And nothing in my life has ever put me in face with reality better than jiu-jitsu. Because I think, you know, in life we can all distort our perception of things in order to make ourselves more comfortable, in order to make ourselves accept where we are. And there's a lot of people out there that are running around life full of shit. You can't be full of shit when you do jiu-jitsu. When you do jiu-jitsu, it's impossible to be full of shit. Because reality comes at you in the purest form possible. A life or death struggle using your determination, your focus, your techniques, your mind, and your training, and over and over and over again. And it's reality. And if you up and you get caught in a triangle, you've got to tap, and that is the end of the story. It's as real as can get, and that has made me a better person. It has made me a better man. It's made me understand myself, my weaknesses, my strengths, the shit I need to work on. Jiu-jitsu has been one of the most valuable tools that I've ever had in my life. Danger! There's purity in physical pursuits, right? Because it doesn't matter what your social status is. It doesn't matter how people perceive you. When it comes down to how long can you stay in that pool, when it comes down to how far can you run, when it comes down to how much can you push yourself past the part where you want to quit, how far can you keep going? There's a purity in that it dissolves social order, all that bullshit. All the what people think about you goes out the window. It's who are you right now?
That's right.
Who are you right now?
Been in the trenches as an actor for a long. I'm like, these things don't happen, you know.
Yeah,
they don't happen. And then it happened. I was like,
well, they occasionally happen.
Yeah.
I feel like you will to happen. Like
Yeah.
with my whole life, I just feel like, you know, you got to like will it and just believe it. And if you don't, then it really won't. It has to, the mojo all has to line up.
Yeah.
It helps. It helps if you believe it. But it doesn't. There's a lot of people out there that watched The Secret and thought, I'm going to change my life. And then nothing happened.
Yeah. No, I think it's essential to believe, and then there's still a lot of shit. But if you don't believe it, you good luck.
Yeah, there's a vibration that you have to catch. You have to be on a frequency, and all these things have to align together in order for it to be successful. If you look at someone who's doing really well, like say if you focus on like Kevin Hart or someone like that, some very famous and successful comedian, all you see is him now flying around private jets, wearing a new pair of sneakers every day, driving around in Bentleys. You just see that. You don't see him being a young kid in Philadelphia going to open mic nights. There's a progression that you're not witness to. You don't see it. And that takes place in everything. It takes place in authors. It takes place in comedians and musicians. There is a starting point, and then with time and focus, and as long as you reevaluate and reassess and constantly objectively look at what you're doing and then pursue it with passion and focus, you get better at things. There's always going to be people that are luckier than you. Some of it is luck, and some of it is courage. Some of it is putting your ass out there. Some of it is trying things. One of the things that I always like to tell people that I think you should do is do shit that's difficult. It's very important to struggle. We have been fed this line of horse that you're supposed to seek comfort, and I don't think you are. I think you're supposed to seek lessons, and you're supposed to seek difficult tasks and accomplishments, and through those things and through doing things that are hard to do, even if it's just a 90-minute hot yoga class, this life doesn't have enough of that. There's not enough struggle. You don't get to know yourself without struggle. You don't get to know your boundaries unless you push them. You don't get to know who you are really unless you're tested. There's a lot of artists and comics I bet musicians as well, but writers for sure. One of the big problems is sitting down and doing the work. And you got to, and Pressfield talks about that in the most concise and beautiful way, and he labels it like an enemy. He calls it resistance, you know, and that you have to sit down and you have to overcome resistance, and that the pro goes to work, and it doesn't matter if you're sick, doesn't matter if you have kids, it doesn't matter what, you're a pro and you go to work, and that just, it puts it in your head that this is what I do. This is what, and you have pride in that. And then when you are in front of that keyboard and you look down the count, it says, I got 1,000 words today. I put 1,000 words in. You're doing the work, and out of that work, gems blossom. Little things, but you might have a day where you just write nothing but dog shit. So what? Show up again tomorrow, and tomorrow out of that dog shit, a flower will emerge. You never know, and that's the only way to develop real, like, to really develop your potential 100% in anything. If you don't have certain standards, then other people will chew up all your time, and their problems become your problems, and they're not even thinking about their problems. They're thinking about you thinking about their problems. I mean, there's many people that pawn off their problems on other folks, and they think that if you're a good friend, you're helping me. Like, you're not a good friend. You're not taking care of me. You're not helping me. I'm like, you're not even helping yourself.
Yeah.
The f*** are you doing for yourself? Like, this is a trap that a lot of people get stuck into. It's codependency. It happens in a lot of relationships. There's a lot of people that get involved in relationships, boy and girl, that they find that the person who is their soulmate is also the source of all their problems, and they're the curator of this person's life. They're supposed to be like helping this person along because this person is like deemed them the person who's most important to them. And it's like you gotta find out what, you know, what's the boundary where you won't cross, where you realize like someone is becoming an impediment to your own happiness and success. You know, and there's a lot of folks that live life on a cushy cloud of marshmallows and bullshit, and then one day something goes wrong. And I mean, that's why spoiled kids are so sad. Like, a spoiled young boy is one of the saddest things ever. A young boy that becomes a man and can't take care of himself, and his dad has to keep on rescuing him. His dad has to keep on bailing him out of situations and giving him money. I've met guys like that, and that is a crippling affliction when they don't have the character themselves to be able to get by in life. They constantly need someone to help them and bail them out. Even as a grown man, I've met guys in their 40s that still need help from their parents. I'm like, what the f***, man? You're never going to get it right, because somewhere along the line they didn't face enough of the adversity to realize that there's sometimes you just got to get up and get shit done. There's sometimes where you have to pull yourself up and you have to push forward even if you want to stay in bed. And if you don't do that, and you just keep calling on your daddy, and your daddy keeps rescuing you, you never develop those tools. You never develop that ability to recognize what you're doing wrong with your life. Because you're soft, you got a cushiony, you got a safety net for your safety net. Talking before this podcast about Holly Holm's victory over Ronda Rousey, and one of the things that we were talking about was that Ronda had this very linear, straightforward attack. You knew she was coming, and Holly is a master at countering. So all she had to do was wait and move, and Ronda was coming in one direction. There was no variation.
There was no creativity.
There was no creativity. It was a mad bulldog rush that had worked on everybody else before. But she found one person who was a virtuoso at movement, and she needed creativity, and it wasn't there. And she needed that experience that came with having faced someone who knew that position and had a deep understanding of that movement, and she didn't have that in her repertoire. And so that's the result that we saw. like a striker like Anderson Silva is extremely creative. If you watch, he's got a fight versus Tony Ficklin in Cage Warriors. Cage Warriors? What the f was it called in England? Small organization in England.
I think
was
it's
it called
Cage Warriors,
Yeah. Where he practiced this step in uppercut elbow, like a sideways elbow. And his coach was going, "You're crazy, stop practicing that." And he would make his wife hold the pillow because his coach didn't want him to practice it anymore because he thought he was wasting his time. So he practiced stepping. His wife would hold a pillow for him, and he'd step in and throw this uppercut elbow. That's what he knocked out Ficklin with.
Yeah.
And he obviously Ficklin was outclassed in that fight, but he wanted to make a point. And like the front kick that he landed in the face of Vitor Belfort, Vitor never saw that shit coming because nobody had done that to him before. Because nobody had done that in the history of the UFC. Nobody had ever knocked anybody out with the first kick you learn in martial arts. But the creativity to try something like that. He would throw punches to your thigh from standing. He would throw a jab to your thigh. He would throw a crescent kick, an inside crescent kick to your face. Like, what the f? It was part of what made him such an effective striker, is that he threw these things that you just didn't expect him to do. I was talking to a friend of mine about imposter syndrome. That
imposter syndrome?
Yeah, you know that feeling, you know, expression?
No.
It's you get it when people think that you're really good at something and you don't have a lot of self-worth, or you have this perception of yourself that you're not worthy.
Right.
You know, like maybe as an artist, that's a big one that you have it as an artist. Like I had it forever as a comedian, and I probably still have it a little bit, but less so than I used to, because I'm just more accomplished and more understanding of what it is, and the more engrossed in the process. And I know what it is now more than I did before.
Okay.
And you, like when I meet famous people, if they know who I am, I'd be like, oh my God, I got to get out of here. This person knows who I am. I'm tricking them.
Right.
It's a trick.
They don't know.
And they're like, hey man, I love your stuff. I'm like, no, you don't. You think you do. You don't. Trust me. Let me get away from you.
Right.
It's like this imposter thing. And then sometimes enough things happen where you go, you know what? I think I might be legit. Like, this is so crazy. Like, I thought I was an imposter forever, but I think I'm going to relax and just concentrate on the work and not worry about whether or not I'm an imposter anymore. And just concentrate on the work.
That ego's always there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always there, man. But the ego, it's interesting. Imposter syndrome is often more prevalent in people who are legitimately talented. And for some strange reason, because when you're legitimately talented, one of the ways you become legitimately talented is to be ruthlessly self-critical. Because that's how you get really good at something. And in ruthless like, I remember Cat Williams was talking about himself once. And Cat Williams is a crazy person, but a brilliant comedian. And he said something that I've always thought. And he's like, I'm not a fan of me. And he goes like, I don't particularly like me. You know, it's like, that is why he's great, because that makes you work so hard. Like, the worst thing a comedian can be in the beginning is sure of themselves and then incompetent at the same time. It's horrible. It's horrible because you're not good, but you think you're amazing. And then you understand, you don't know why the world doesn't think you're amazing. Because you think you're great, because you're delusional. You have this sort of artificial image of the world that you've put up, and in the world you are the center. You are the center, and you want everything to evolve around you. Imposter syndrome exists because your ego won't, like, your mind understands that your ego will f this up. If you let your ego say, "Oh, I'm the man," you're going to ruin this whole thing. Like, you have to be aware of what this is. Like, this ride requires you to stay within a certain frequency. You have to stay inside that frequency. As soon as you start going, yeah, everything's f***ing awesome, it all goes away. All of it goes away. You have to stay inside that frequency. And that frequency is not a frequency where you're very pleased with yourself. Any long-term cardiovascular exercise, you get this. It's like we did, last October, we did the Sober October thing where we had this crazy fitness challenge. So all of us were doing cardio like 5 hours a day, like really crazy amounts of cardio. And one of the things that Tom Segura and I both agreed on is like the amount of internal chatter dissipates to zero. Like you have no anxiety. It goes, I didn't realize I had any anxiety until that happened. And then I was like, God, it goes to zero. It goes to nothing. Like when you do like 5 hours on a treadmill or you just run for when it's done, man, there's this like peace of mind that comes with that. This release of endorphins that's incredibly addictive because that feeling is so pleasing. So it's not that it doesn't feel good to get out of bed and to just push when you don't want to, but the end result feels amazing. One of the things that's causing this funk that people are in is that we're living our lives, many of us at least, in these very unfulfilling ways where you're going to this office with artificial light and you're doing something you don't want to do all day long, and then you get home and you're tired. And on top of that, you're eating shit. You're eating potato chips and you're drinking soda, and your body is just like, what in the is this? We're supposed to be out in the fields. We're supposed to be walking up hills. We're supposed to be looking for animals or gathering vegetables. We're supposed to be doing all these things that our body's designed to do. We're supposed to be in nature. Yeah.
And nature is like a medicine. Like it literally is a medicine to you. Like people that go, you don't have to go hunting. You don't have to go fishing. Just go hike, man. Just go hike up to the top of a mountain and look out. There's a reward that you get from that is intensely like soul filling. There's like something about like when I was in Colorado and there was this area of Boulder where you drive up one of these roads and there was this area where you could park and it was this incredible view, man. And these people just park and just go out there and just look. But you get there and you park and you go, because you would see, you're literally seeing the Continental Divide. These snow-capped mountains in July.
Yeah.
In July, it's covered with snow because those mountains don't give a
Perspective. Everybody's got these stupid barriers they put in their own head. You got to resist those goddamn things because they don't do you any good, and they certainly define the potential for your future in a negative way that's not self-serving and it's not even real. This idea that there's no way to get past the starting block today is just ludicrous. It's crazy. And it's just this poor thinking. And people that are trapped in bad situations, one of the problems is you feel like this is your future. You feel like you're and you can't get out of that. There's no hope. There's no light at the end of the tunnel. There's no rainbow. And if you feel like that, that alone can be incredibly defining and limiting. But if you look at yourself objectively and say, okay, I kind of am here. I'm in credit card debt. I'm working in a job. I don't like what I'm doing, but I have some ideas. I need to feed those ideas. I need to feed them and water them, and I need to set aside a certain amount of time every day to just try to make those things happen. You can do that.
You don't
Feed each other. One thing that we're an animal, but we're also the next stage of animals where we're aware of who we are and we contemplate our existence. And when you contemplate your existence and you're an intelligent life form, you should always be seeking to improve. If you're always seeking to improve, the thing that you look at is like, what has brought me the most positive results? So it's kindness, friendship, the connection with human beings on a very positive level where you like build up like a trust and you have warmth and friendship and you root for each other and you share in each other's bounty and you build together. You know, that we all know inherently in our heads that kindness is like one of the best gifts you can bestow another human being, whether it's giving them food when they don't have any, or helping them out, or hooking them up, or doing something to help them, or being around them and complimenting them, whatever the fuck it is. We know that inherently that feels great, and we know it. We know that that's the next. We have to figure out how to use our resources together so that we can be like that all the time. I think it's always about doing what you actually want to be doing with your life, as far as if you have an inner creative expression to get out. And there's a lot of people that always wanted to be singers, and they just, for whatever reason, never pursued it.
Yeah.
So they just sing around their house, and they always wonder what could have been if they just tried to be a singer. That's one form of, that could bum you out. That's one form of a roadblock in your life. The depressed feeling that you didn't try, to reach your potential. You didn't go after what is intriguing to you. Like, we all have almost like a beacon that pulls us in a certain direction. For some people, it's nursing. For some people, it's construction and architecture.
Being a parent for some people.
For us, it was stand-up.
Yeah.
You know, it's really simple.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's something, the happiness that's involved in pursuing your inherent desires is unavoidable. I mean, it's not. It's unappreciated. It's underappreciated. People think, well, all you have to do is find a career. Yes, all you have to do is find a career. But I guarantee you there's one out there that you really, really want to do.
Yeah, the key
Unless
is...
it's just like, I want to be famous. Then
well,
you're an asshole.
that's what I was going to say.
I don't think you should ever be very competitive with people who are not competitive with you. So here's a perfect example.
That's an interesting thought.
When I do jujitsu,
Okay.
I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. If I do jiu-jitsu with a white belt, I treat them very kindly. I might tap them out a little bit, but there's no way I roll with them the way I would roll with another black belt.
Well, that's fighting. There's a difference.
But it's not. It's a game.
Different.
It's a game.
Okay, I mean,
Jiu-jitsu is a game.
Respect.
So if I'm rolling with someone and they're making mistakes, I'll correct their mistakes. If I wanted to, if I'm rolling with someone who's a white belt, I could just cut right through them. Just keep cutting right through them. But you know what you do with them? You discourage people from doing it, and it's not really fair, because you're not getting anything out of it either. All you're getting out of it, you're practicing like a grappling dummy, and like occasionally, maybe that's a good thing to do. I feel like once you get into the blue belt and purple belt range, then I'm going to go with you 100%. Yeah. When you're dealing with someone who's not really competitive with you, it doesn't make sense. You're not getting anything out of it, really. And the worst people that you know are the people that don't have a good self-judge, that everything they do is awesome. Those never grow anywhere. Right. I mean, that's a huge issue with comedy. When you run into people that have terrible comedy sets but think they did great. Like, we would always, Greg Fitzsimmons and I would always talk about that with like open micers. Like, there's people that hear phantom laughs, like they think they're doing great, and they have this delusional self-opinion where everything they do is awesome, and they don't know why they're not successful already. They don't know why they're not famous. And those people, I believe, I mean, in some sort of a weird narcissistic way, you could look at it this way, that those people are there to teach you. This is the consequences of not feeling that awful feeling when you fail. I was talking to Burr a couple weeks ago. He did a set at the Comedy Store, and I saw part of it. It was he was killing. And then I ran into him in the hallway, and I go, "Oh man, main room show was great, right?" And he goes, "Yeah, I f***ed up at the end though. I tried to hang in there too long, and the last bit bombed." Like, he was just, it was rotten at him that the last bit, like, he goes, "I f***ing hung in there too long. I should have got off of the bit before that." Yeah. You know, like, but you know, when I was in there, he was f***ing killing. Yeah. You know, but that wasn't in his mind. The success was not in his mind. What was like, okay, whatever that happened at the end, don't f***ing do that again. Right. You know, right. But that's why he's Bill Burr. That's why he's really good. People most of what